A long time ago, Earth was not weak like many in the galaxy believed. It was quiet, yes, but not because it had nothing to offer. It was quiet because it was building something. Something powerful, something secret, something that no alien race saw coming. The humans called it the Silent Armada, a fleet of the most powerful warships Earth had ever made, ships that could hide in the dark, cloak from sensors, and move faster than light in ways that didn't follow the galaxy's rules. The fleet had one mission: to explore beyond the edge of the known galaxy, to find threats before those threats found Earth. They launched without fanfare, without a goodbye, and then they vanished. The galaxy waited, for years, then decades, then a full century. No signal, no debris, no message. It was as if the fleet had been swallowed by the void. And so, Earth was mocked. The Galactic Council laughed. Foolish humans, they said. They sent themselves into the black and never returned. They called Earth weak, emotional, impulsive. They erased it from threat lists, and Earth, strangely, said nothing. Now, 100 years later, strange things began happening in a dead star system near the far edge of the Sarkan expanse. A lonely alien research vessel caught an anomaly. Faint signals, old human frequencies, distorted and cold. Captain Varix of the Dryland Republic leaned forward in his seat. "What is that?" he asked, eyes locked on the flickering screen. His crew scanned and scanned again. "It's human, sir," one technician whispered. "But it's not coming from Earth. It's coming from Zeta Void. No one lives there." They moved closer. Sensors started glitching. Lights flickered on the bridge. One crew member screamed as her screen went white and then black again. Then they saw it. A shape. No, many shapes, emerging from behind the dead star. Massive silhouettes drifting slowly through the darkness. Ships the size of cities, silent, with dark hulls and glowing red lights, and at the center, a beast of a ship, larger than anything the Dryland had ever seen. A name etched in ancient English letters, barely readable through the ice and space dust on its hull. Leviathan 01 Captain. Varric stood frozen. "That can't be Earth's fleet," he muttered. "But they're different." They looked wrong. Their shapes were more angular now, their engines pulsed with an eerie blue light. The ships gave off no heat, no radiation, no signal. But the feeling in the air changed. The crew felt it in their bones. Something old had returned, something angry. The Leviathan turned slowly toward the Dryland vessel. No weapons activated, no threat sent, just a signal, simple and cold. "We see you." Captain Varix ordered a full retreat, but their engines wouldn't respond. One by one, the ship's systems shut down. Power, oxygen, gravity. The crew began to panic, yelling, floating, crying. Then everything came back online at once, and the Leviathan was gone. Back on Dryland Prime, the footage caused chaos. The Galactic Council demanded answers. Scientists reviewed the signal, the image, the ship names, all confirmed. It was Earth's fleet, but changed, evolved. And they were not alone. 37 ships were counted, but scans showed traces of hundreds more, hidden behind cloaking fields or dark space folds. Even the strongest alien empires could not build fleets that large without detection. How did Earth do it? Where had they gone? What had they become? Some said the humans had fused with their ships. Others believed they had found forbidden technology from the old galaxy. A few whispered that the humans had died long ago, and these were ghosts. But one thing was clear: Earth's fleet had returned and the galaxy wasn't ready. A storm was coming, and at the center of it was the vanishing armada. Now no longer lost, but watching, waiting, and perhaps planning. And this time, Earth wasn't looking for peace. It was looking for answers. Or maybe for revenge. The silence was broken, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Ambassador Terran of the Zalari Dominion had lived for over 200 cycles. He had seen solar empires rise and fall, moons cracked by war, and black holes used as weapons. But nothing shook him like the silent footage of Leviathan-01 drifting near the Zeta Void. He was called to a private meeting with the High Circle. There were no guards, no cameras, just whispers and fear. "The humans are back," the elder said, "but they are not the same. Terran was chosen not because of rank, but because of memory." He had met humans once, long ago, when Earth still sent ambassadors to council events. He remembered their fire, their wild eyes, their kindness, and their cruelty packed in one breath. But most of all, he remembered how fast they learned and how fast they built. Terran was given a small diplomatic cruiser and one order: find them, talk to them, and understand what they wanted. He left immediately, heart heavy with old memories and new fear. He crossed dead sectors, passed through ghost systems until his ship reached the edge of the Zeta Void. There, floating in darkness, was an abandoned moon base. It bore old Earth markings, faded by time and radiation. "Scan for life," he ordered. His ship scanned. Nothing, just a structure left behind like a forgotten scar. Terran suited up and stepped inside the moon base alone. The air was stale but breathable, lights flickered weakly, walls covered in dust. It looked untouched. For decades, maybe more. He walked slowly through empty corridors, past shattered screens and frozen consoles. Then he saw it. A single terminal still glowing. A blinking message in old Earth English. "We are not what we were." Terran stared at the words, trying to understand. It wasn't a warning, not exactly. It felt more like a confession. Then the lights in the base suddenly powered on, bright and sharp. The air systems roared to life and doors began sliding open. One by one, Terran reached for his communicator. But it was dead. His ship above the moon stopped responding. He was alone, trapped. A deep voice echoed through the base, not human, not machine. It sounded like both. "You should not have come," it said. "You are not ready." Terran looked around, eyes wide. "Who are you?" he called out. No answer, just the humming of machines older than his own people's history. He moved deeper into the base, toward the source of the voice. Doors opened for him as if the base knew who he was. Then he saw them. 3 dark figures, standing in the final chamber, not alive, not dead. Metal skin, glowing eyes, tattered Earth uniforms. One stepped forward, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "We were human once," it said. "Now, we are more." Terran felt his knees weaken. "What happened to you?" he whispered. The being raised a hand and images poured into Terran's mind, memories not his own, of black space stretching beyond stars, of time breaking, of voices calling from the void, of battles with things that didn't follow physics or logic, and of choices made to survive. Terrible choices. The humans had entered a region of space where reality bent. They fought things that fed on thought, on fear. They lost people, then lost their bodies, then their names. But they survived. And they returned. Terran gasped and stepped back. "You're not human," he said. The figure tilted its head. "Not in the way you remember, but we remember Earth." Suddenly, alarms blared across the moon base. The Leviathan-01 was approaching, not cloaked, not hiding. Its massive shadow passed over the base like a god returning. "Home," Terran's communicator sparked back to life. Dozens of council signals flooded in. "Ambassador, return immediately." "Did you make contact? Is it hostile?" Terran looked out the viewing port at the giant ship settling into orbit. He didn't know the answer, but one thing was clear. The humans had come back with knowledge and power that no one in the galaxy could explain. And they didn't come to say hello. They came with purpose. Terran sent one final message to the council. "They are changed," he said. "Be careful how you greet them." Then he turned, as the dark figure beside him opened the final door. "Come," it said. "There's more you need to see." And Terran, though afraid, stepped forward into the heart of Earth's forgotten future, because in that moment, one truth had settled in his soul. The humans hadn't just returned. They had evolved, and the galaxy's balance was about to shift forever. They floated like shadows in the dark, not loud, not proud, but cold, controlled, and watching everything, The galaxy had seen warships, many kinds from many species, but nothing looked like the ones now drifting near the Zeta Void. They were not just built, they were changed, grown, adapted, fused with something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Kale of the Yandere Armada stared at the strange footage. He had spent his life commanding fleets, reading enemy tactics, understanding space warfare. But now he felt like a student again. A student facing something far beyond his training. This can't be, he said softly. The screen showed one of the Earth ships, designation unknown, splitting into 3 smaller crafts mid-flight. But the strange part was, there were no seams, no mechanical joints. It looked like the ship had simply opened itself beside him. His science officer shook her head. The material is morph metal, she said, but it responds like a living thing, not a machine. And the power readings, she stopped, swallowing hard. They shouldn't exist. Admiral Kale leaned forward. Explain. They're using something like dark matter, she said, but not like we know it. Their reactors pulse in patterns we can't track, and the energy flows through the ships like blood. Kale said nothing. His eyes narrowed as the footage showed another ship, smaller but just as strange, slowly turning toward a dryland mining station. No weapons fired, no communication sent, but the station shut down all power on its own, as if afraid to be seen. What are they? Kale whispered. No one in the room answered, because no one knew. Across the galaxy, other ships had started reporting the same thing, ghosts in the dark, drifting closer to old Earth routes, sometimes just watching, sometimes scanning, sometimes vanishing without a trace. The Galactic Council had no plan, no rulebook for this kind of return, because no one expected the lost to come back more powerful than when they left, on the edge of Council space. A science cruiser named the Light of Clarity had tried to send a probe near one of the human ships. The probe disappeared, not destroyed, just gone, like it never existed. Moments later, a message appeared on the ship's screens, not in code, not in language, but in pure thought. Every crew member felt it in their mind at the same time. Do not touch what you do not understand. The crew froze. Even the captain, a strong-willed Alari veteran, fell silent. Her hands trembled as she gave the order to retreat because that voice didn't sound like a warning, it sounded like pity. Back on Terran's cruiser, the alien ambassador was still inside the moon base. The human-like figures had shown him more. Rooms filled with strange machines, walls that pulsed with red lights, and tanks full of fluid with ancient Earth flags inside. What are these? Terran asked. Memories, one of them replied. The ones who were lost. They live here now. Terran's translator struggled to keep up. You mean dead? No, the figure said. Changed. He was led into another chamber where massive control panels lit up without touch, and in the center a hologram flickered to life. It showed battles, impossible ones, ships flying through shattered moons, fighting creatures made of light and shadow, storms of time breaking around hulls, and the Leviathan standing alone at the edge of a dying galaxy. Terran gasped. These are not real, he said. But the figure shook its head. We went farther than anyone. We found the edge of creation. Terran stumbled back, his body shaking. The images were too much for his mind. His memories were being overwritten. The figure reached out and touched his head, and suddenly, the pain stopped. We are sorry, it said. We forget how fragile others are. Terran looked into its glowing eyes and saw something strange, not evil, not anger, but sorrow. Deep, endless sorrow. You didn't just survive, he said. You suffered. The figure nodded slowly. And now we carry it all. Back in Council space, fleets were preparing for war, but no one knew what they were preparing for. Because the returning Earth fleet didn't follow any rule. They didn't claim planets. They didn't send demands. They only watched. And when touched, they reacted with power beyond understanding. The galaxy had called them lost, but they weren't lost. They had been reforged. Now they moved through the stars not as soldiers, but as something else entirely, a warning, a mystery, a shadow of Earth's forgotten strength, and the question echoed everywhere. What did the humans bring back with them? And what would they do next? The Galactic Council chamber was never quiet, but today, silence ruled. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of star systems sat frozen, eyes wide, voices held back. On the central screen, a still image of Leviathan 01 floated in deep space. No one dared to speak first. Then Chancellor Vyrax of the Thalax Empire slammed his fist on the glowing table. "This is madness," he growled. "They've vanished for 100 years and now they return with ghost ships and silent threats?" The ambassador from the Eliari Confederation spoke slowly. "They didn't attack us, Chancellor. But they showed us they could," another replied. "They walked into our space like it belonged to them." A trembling voice came from a small corner seat. It was the youngest member of the council, a scientist named Mira from the Neuroxy cluster. "They're not just ships anymore," she said. "They've merged with something unnatural." Screens flickered as footage rolled again. Warships with hulls that moved like skin, engines that whispered strange sounds when slowed down, weapons that didn't fire. They blinked into existence, and when they did, whole satellites disappeared. The galaxy had seen powerful tech before, but this wasn't tech, this was something else. "They have the power to destroy any fleet," someone whispered. Without speaking, without warning, the panic spread like wildfire. Some wanted to launch a preemptive strike. Others begged for negotiation, but no one knew what Earth even wanted. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, not from any speaker, but from every mind. "We ask only one thing. Do not follow." The room gasped as every member heard it at once. Even the telepathic guards froze. The voice was calm, without anger or threat, but it was everywhere. Mira stood, pale and shaking. "They're watching us," she whispered. "Right now," Chancellor Vyrax clenched his jaw. "If they can reach our minds, they can destroy our systems." He turned to the military board behind him. "Activate Fleet Hammerstrike, full readiness, deploy to the Zeta boundary." The council broke into shouting. "Are you mad? They warned us. We can't fight what we don't understand." But Vyrax only growled. "I'd rather die with steel in my hands than kneel to ghosts." Within hours, Fleet Hammerstrike, one of the largest military groups in the galaxy, was on the move. 7 dreadnoughts, 12 battle cruisers, and over 100 fighters entered the Zeta sector. They activated full scan mode, shields raised, weapons hot. But space was empty. For a full day there was nothing. Then, one by one, their ships started to vanish. Not explode, not burn, just disappear. The command ship Valor's Edge tried to broadcast a retreat, but their signal bounced back with only one word: silence. From Council Command, they watched in horror as the fleet icons blinked out, all gone, in under a minute. No battle, no warning, no trace. Then, a single signal appeared. A symbol. Earth's old flag, torn and inverted. Beneath it, glowing in red, one sentence. This was not an attack. This was a lesson. The Council fell into chaos. Some species began immediate evacuation plans. Others shut down borders. One empire surrendered without being asked. Even Chancellor Vyrax now sat quietly, sweating. No one had ever seen a fleet disappear like that. No weapons, no war, just erasure. Back on the abandoned moon base, Terran felt the pulse of fear across the galaxy. He stood before the strange figures again. "You didn't kill them," he said quietly. "No," one replied. "We unmade them." Terran felt a chill run down his back. "What do you want from the galaxy?" "We want to be left alone," the voice answered. "But if we are forced to remind them who we are again, we will." Terran nodded, slowly understanding. They weren't trying to conquer. They were trying to protect something. Maybe Earth, maybe something greater. And now the galaxy had seen the truth. The humans didn't need to shout. They didn't need to fight. Their silence was the message. The Council stopped all plans for retaliation. New laws were drafted overnight. No ship was to enter the Zeta sector again. No probe, no scout, no spy. The region was marked quarantine by order of Earth. And across the stars, every species watched the edge of their maps, where nothing moved. And yet, something watched back. The galaxy, once so full of pride and noise, now spoke in whispers, because Earth had returned, not with speeches or peace banners, but with silence. And silence had become the loudest warning of all. Across every screen, across every frequency, and even deep inside uncontacted systems, a strange signal appeared. At first it was just static, then a soft pulse, then slowly an image, faded, cracked, like an old memory struggling to be seen. A man stood at the center, wearing an Earth Navy uniform torn at the shoulders with one sleeve missing. His face was aged, with deep scars running down his jaw and across his temple. One eye glowed faintly, blue, not natural. Behind him stood a wall of black metal and soft red lights pulsing in patterns too perfect to be random. He stared into the camera for a long time without speaking. Then, finally, he said, "My name is Commander Raylan Cade of the Terran fleet." The galaxy held its breath. No one had seen a living human from the vanished fleet in over 100 years. "You thought we were dead," he said, his voice low and calm. "You thought we disappeared into the dark, and maybe we did." He looked to the side for a moment, as if remembering something painful. "We went where no one else dared to go. We passed the rim of the galaxy. We went into the quiet void, and we found something there." The image flickered again, showing flashes, unseen galaxies, twisted stars, shadow-like creatures that shifted like smoke. Then the camera returned to Raylan's face. "We met things that never spoke, never slept, never stopped hunting. We fought them. We lost people. We lost ships. We lost time." He paused. "Some of us changed. Some of us became part of the machines just to survive. We didn't want it, but we had no choice." In the Galactic Council hall, silence filled the air. Leaders watched, unmoving. As Raylan continued, "We came back," he said, "but not to conquer. We came back because something is following us." His eyes darkened. "It hasn't reached your stars yet, but it will. And when it does, it won't ask questions. It won't take prisoners. It will erase." Some council members leaned forward. Others leaned back. Was this a warning or a lie? "We are not here to ask for help," Raylan said. "We are here to give a choice." He lifted a small metal device and placed it in front of the camera. It unfolded like a flower made of glass and wires. "This is a beacon," he said. "If you activate it, we will come. We will protect your world, but if you choose to fight us..." The screen flashed again, showing the remains of the Tarlock warfleet. Ships twisted, floating without gravity, as if frozen in time. Then the screen returned to his face, calm and cold. "Then we will defend ourselves, and you will not get a second warning." He stepped back, and the signal ended without sound. Every ship, every planet, every moon that had received the message stayed quiet. Even pirates turned off their engines. Even warlords refused to speak. Because Commander Raylan had not begged, he had not threatened with fire. He had only spoken with truth. A truth no one wanted to face. The lost fleet had changed not just in body, but in purpose. The galaxy had always feared war from Earth, but now it feared something worse. Protection. Because protection from something worse meant the worse was coming. On the Council's emergency line, a dozen empires spoke at once. Some wanted to accept the beacon. Others said it was a trick. A few demanded more proof of this outer threat. But proof was not what Earth gave. They had given only one thing, a choice. Terran, still aboard the Leviathan's escort ship, watched the recording again. He studied Raylan's face. There was pain in his voice, but also purpose. The kind of purpose that came from losing everything and still choosing to come back. "He's telling the truth," Terran said softly. The AI beside him, part human and part machine, nodded slowly. "We survived because we changed," it said, "but we still remember who we were." Terran closed his eyes, and for the first time, he wasn't afraid of Earth's power. He was afraid of what had chased Earth out of the void. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy shifted. Some systems placed the beacon near their capitals. Others rejected it, proud and blind. And in the silent corners of space, Earth's ships waited, not moving, not threatening, but always watching, because the humans hadn't returned to take over. They had returned to make sure the stars stayed alive and whatever was coming. They were the only ones who had faced it and lived. The Tarlok Empire had always hidden in shadows. They smiled in the council chambers. They signed peace treaties. But behind those smiles lay sharp knives. 100 years ago, when Earth launched its secret fleet, the Tarlok saw danger. They feared the humans more than anyone admitted, so they whispered lies to the council. They said Earth was unstable, reckless, unfit to command such power. And in secret, they set a trap. They lured the Terran fleet into a cursed system. Coordinates falsified, data forged. The system was unstable, filled with collapsing stars and storms that twisted space. The Tarlok believed no ship could survive there. They told themselves they were protecting the galaxy, but in truth, they wanted humanity erased before it grew too strong. Now, 100 years later, the lie had returned. And with it, so had Earth's fury. The Tarlok homeworld sat in peace that night. Its skies glowed with the lights of trade. Ships, its oceans shimmered under twin moons. Families slept in tall crystal towers. Soldiers drank in barracks. No one expected death until the stars went dark. It began with silence. The trade ships vanished from orbit without a sound. Satellites lost contact one by one. And then, through the clouds, a shadow so vast it covered. The horizon appeared, Leviathan 01. It did not fire a shot at first. It simply descended into low orbit, its hull reflecting broken starlight. Cities below froze as alarms rang across the empire. Children cried, soldiers scrambled. Leaders screamed into comms for answers. But there were none. Then the sky bent, reality itself twisted. Ships guarding the Tarlok capital tried to launch, but space folded around them. Engines roared but never moved. They were stuck in bubbles of frozen time. One dreadnought simply crumbled into dust as if it had aged 10,000 years in a heartbeat. On the surface, the Tarlok Emperor appeared on every screen. His voice shook as he addressed his people. "Remain calm, we will defend ourselves," he lied. But his eyes betrayed fear. Above, Commander Raylan's voice filled the skies. "You betrayed us," he said. "You threw us into the dark. We survived, we changed, and now we have returned." The Leviathan's hull shifted, plates opening like the petals of a steel flower. Inside, something glowed. Blue, white, then red. It pulsed with power, not of this galaxy. Not plasma, not lasers, not missiles. It was something older, something Earth had stolen from the void. The beam fired without sound. A line of light stretched across the capital's sky. And when it ended, half the defense grid was simply gone. Not destroyed, not burning, gone, erased from existence. Panic broke across the Tarlok world. Ships tried to flee, but the Leviathan's escorts appeared out of nowhere. Not from hyperspace, not from warp lanes. They simply stepped out of shadows. Each ship unleashed weapons that bent gravity, collapsing cruisers into themselves like paper balls. The Emperor screamed orders. All fleets, all weapons, kill them. But no weapon struck. Every missile turned to dust mid-flight. Every laser beam bent away. It was as if the laws of physics no longer obeyed the Tarlok. And then came the final strike. The Leviathan didn't target ships anymore. It targeted memory, one by one, archives, databanks, histories. All began erasing. The humans weren't killing the Tarlok bodies. They were killing their legacy, removing their existence from time itself. On the Council's central world, leaders watched in horror as transmissions came in. The Tarlok fleet icons blinked out. Their signals faded. Within hours, the Tarlok Empire, one of the strongest powers in the galaxy, was gone. Not conquered, not occupied, just removed. Ambassador Terran stood inside the Leviathan's chamber when it ended. He watched Commander Raylan step forward, eyes dark, face harder than stone. "They betrayed us," Raylan said quietly. "They fed us to the dark. And for that, they no longer deserve a place among the stars. Terran shivered. This was not cruelty. This was judgment, cold, precise, and absolute. Back in the council hall, chaos erupted. Some species screamed for war against Earth. Others swore loyalty immediately. But all of them understood one thing. Humanity was no longer just human. It was something greater. Something forged in fire, betrayal, and survival. The Tarlok were the first, but no one believed they would be the last. And across the galaxy, every empire asked the same question in fear. What will Earth decide next? The galaxy trembled after the fall of the Tarlok. An empire that had stood for thousands of years was erased in a single night. No rubble, no survivors, no history left. Just silence where once there had been power. In the council chambers, fear tasted thicker than air. Every delegate looked over their shoulder. Every leader wondered if their species would be next. If Earth could erase the mighty Tarlok, then what hope did anyone else have? But Earth did not attack. Earth did not expand. Instead, Earth sent one message. It echoed across every system, across every frequency, across every mind. Commander Raylan appeared again, standing in the same shadowed chamber as before. His eyes, burned with cold fire, his scarred face filled the screen. Behind him, the faint hum of living machines whispered like a heartbeat. "This is not conquest," he said. "This is not war." His voice carried across galaxies, strong and steady. "This is a choice." He looked into the camera, as if staring into every soul. "Stand with us, and we will protect you, Defy. Us, and we will leave you to the dark. Attack us, and you will cease to exist." The words rang like steel on stone, clear, sharp, and final. Some empires bowed at once, the smaller ones, the weaker ones. They placed the beacons on their worlds. And when they did, strange human ships appeared above their skies, silent, unmoving, but they gave a feeling of safety. For the first time in ages, pirates did not raid, slavers did not strike, because Earth was watching, but others were not so quick to bend. The strong empires, proud and ancient, they whispered to each other, "They are few, they are only shadows. If we unite, we can burn them." One of these empires, the Zorth Dominion, gathered a fleet, 500 ships strong, with cannons that could split moons. They did not wait for permission from the Council. They launched into the stars, heading straight for the Leviathan. The galaxy watched with held breath. At last, someone was standing against Earth. If the Zorth won, the humans would be humbled. If the Zorth lost, then no one would ever resist again. The fleet reached the Zeta boundary. Their ships spread out in formation, weapons armed, shields bright. The commander of the Zorth sent a message. "Humans," he said, voice filled with pride, "you are not gods. You are not rulers of the stars. We will end your illusions today." For a long moment there was no reply, just silence. Then slowly, shapes emerged from the dark. The Leviathan and its escorts appeared, not from hyperspace, not from warp, but simply stepping out. Of shadows, the Zorth fleet fired first. Hundreds of beams cut across space. Missiles launched. Engines screamed. The stars themselves seemed to shake. But when the light cleared, the Leviathan was untouched, not a single scar on its hull. The Zorth commander shouted for another volley. Again the weapons fired. Again. The stars burned again. "Nothing then," Earth responded. Not with weapons, not with fire, but with silence. The Zorth ships froze in place. Every engine died. Every screen went black. Every soldier felt a chill run through their blood, and then one by one their ships vanished from the sensors, not destroyed, just gone, as if they had never existed. Only the commander's ship remained, and on his screen, Raylan's face appeared. "I told you," Raylan said quietly. "This was a choice." The commander tried to speak, but his throat failed him. Raylan leaned closer. "Tell your people what you saw. Tell them we do not need to fight. Tell them silence is enough. Then the commander's ship reappeared near his homeworld. His fleet was gone, he was alone. The message spread faster than fire. Every empire understood the truth. Earth did not need armies. Earth did not need numbers. Earth had become something the galaxy had no defense against. In the council chambers, the vote was taken. Some still resisted, but most surrendered. The galaxy bent, not out of loyalty, not out of respect, but out of fear. From that day, a new order was born. The beacons glowed in dozens of systems. And, wherever the beacons glowed, Earth's ships drifted silent, waiting, watching. Earth had given its final ultimatum and the galaxy had obeyed. But in the back of every leader's mind, one thought remained. If Earth was this strong, if Earth had survived the edge of creation, then what was the thing that even they feared? The galaxy was not the same anymore. Trade still moved, stars still burned, worlds still lived, but everything felt different. Because now, above the maps, above the council laws, above the empires, there was Earth. They were not conquerors. They did not raise banners on alien capitals. They did not demand tribute. Instead, they simply watched. The beacons placed on loyal worlds glowed like faint stars in orbit. And whenever pirates tried to raid, whenever warlords tried to rise, the beacons pulsed. Then, without warning, shadows appeared. Earth's ships. They never spoke. They never threatened. They just hovered. And that was enough. No one dared to test them twice. On a small border planet, children played outside at night. They looked up at the sky and whispered to each other, "Do you see it? The ghost ship?" High above, a dark silhouette floated, silent. It never moved, it never left. But every family slept in peace because nothing bad ever happened while the ghost ship was there. The council, broken by fear, rebuilt itself under Earth's shadow. Chancellor Virax, once proud and defiant, now spoke with careful words. "We live in a time of guardians," he said in a trembling speech. "The humans are not our masters, but our shield." But not everyone believed that. Whispers spread in secret rooms. If Earth guards us, who guards against Earth? It was a question no one dared to speak aloud, because the answer was clear. No one, Ambassador Terran, still aboard the Leviathan, watched humanity's new order take shape. He had been given a strange honor. He was allowed to see what others could not. He walked through the ship's living corridors, metal that pulsed like veins, walls that whispered like old voices. Sometimes he saw faces inside the metal, human faces, eyes closed as if dreaming. He wondered if the crew had become part of the ship, or if the ship had become part of them. One evening, Commander Raylan stood with him near a vast viewing window. The stars stretched endless before them. Raylan's face was calm, but his eyes carried weight heavier than worlds. "You think we came back to rule?" Raylan said quietly. Terran shook his head. "No, I think you came back to warn." Raylan nodded. "We carry scars you cannot see. We fought things that do not die, things that do not understand life or mercy. They are still out there, and one day they will find this galaxy." Terran's throat tightened. "Can you stop them?" Raylan looked away, his voice heavy. "We can delay them, we can fight them, but stop them." He paused. "No, not forever." The silence after his words felt colder than the void outside. Across the galaxy, Earth's silent fleet spread, wider. They did not move in armies. They placed only 1 or 2 ships above each loyal world. But every empire knew those few ships were enough to erase entire fleets. In time, the galaxy's wars began to fade, not because peace was chosen, but because fear was stronger than pride. Nations that had fought for centuries signed treaties in days. Because Earth was watching. Children grew up no longer fearing pirates. Farmers no longer feared raids. But deep in their hearts, they feared the quiet figures who floated above them, guardians, yes, but also ghosts. On the edge of known space, far from the Council, a lonely scout ship traveled through uncharted stars. Its crew whispered nervously about rumors of monsters beyond the rim. Then, one night, they saw it. Something vast moving through the dark, larger than any fleet, larger than a planet. It had no shape, no face, only endless hunger. The crew screamed as their instruments failed, but just before it reached them, a shadow appeared. Leviathan 01, It placed itself between the scout ship and the creature. Its hull glowed brighter than ever before, engines roaring like thunder. Then, without a word, the Leviathan charged. The scout crew watched as both Titans vanished into the black. The ship limped home with only fragments of data, but their report spread like fire. The humans were still fighting something the galaxy had no name for, back in the HFY Council chamber. Mira, the young scientist, whispered the thought no one wanted to speak. They are not our rulers. They are our shield. But shields break. What happens when Earth's shield falls? No one answered. On the Leviathan, Raylan stood alone in the command chamber. The stars stretched endless before him. His scarred hand rested on the pulsing wall. "We survived once," he murmured. "We'll survive again." But his eyes, hard as stone, betrayed a truth only he knew. The next war would not just decide Earth's fate. It would decide the fate of the entire galaxy. And so the humans watched. Silent, patient, unyielding. Guardians of the black, ghosts in steel. The galaxy slept under their shadow, safe for now.